don't tell me don't feel bad. If I'm the grieving person, please don't give me that advice. Don't tell me that. My heart is broken. It feels bad. It feels like the worst thing ever. I feel like I'm actively dying and no one has the antidote to stop the pain. That's what grief feels like. So don't give me, dismiss my pain or shame me for grieving. It is the worst. I can't even tell you how many times grievers come to us and they go to their sister or their brother or anyone they feel really close to, and they get dismissed with their grief.
Yeah, we see it a lot with the not our Facebook group that we're in, but a lot of the other groups that we've been a part of. People are so quick to minimize your pain or tell you not to feel something or you shouldn't feel a certain way instead of really just embracing that person and being supportive. Like that's one of the I always say social media, it's bittersweet. That's the most bitter part of it, is that you could be so nasty to someone who's hurting and trying to find help.
I honestly don't understand the time frame that most of us as Americans have put out as far as grief goes. You and I often ask grievers when we first meet them, how long does grief last? And there's always a different answer. You know, it'll last
Mhm.
for the rest of your life. It's 5 years, it's 2 years, it lasts a year, whatever that is going to be. But what happens to the active griever is that they find out the bandwidth for the average person in society is so short. You and I have talked this through till we're blue in the face. Okay. So the bandwidth is very short. Then you come out and you're sharing about your grief because we know grievers need to talk. So they're trying to say things and they get dismissed or shamed.
Mhm.
I can't even tell you how many times you and I see it on Facebook or Instagram where people are literally getting shamed for grieving. Stop talking about that. Nobody wants to hear that anymore. Aren't you over this already?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just the worst.
That's the underlying message in all of those like comments is get over it, and we don't want to hear about this anymore, which is it's so cruel, because it's like if you have this life altering experience and this tragic thing happened to you and you're just looking for comfort or really just um, someone to hold your space, you
Yeah.
know, just really just be there, just show up and let me pour this out. But they don't do that. They don't want that. They just want to say horrible things. And I find that when I'm responding to people in our group, I constantly am questioning, like, do I sound like a jerk or do I sound like a know-it-all? Because sometimes we're like, oh, I'm trying to give like a helpful piece, but then I have to read it back multiple times to just make sure I'm not coming off as dismissive to someone
Yeah.
who shared something very personal.
Okay. And here's the truth. They don't get over it. They don't. And you tell them to get over it or you shame them into getting over it. The truth is they never got over it. They just stopped talking to you about it.
Hmm.
And so now it's perceived from you as if they're doing better. Oh man, Susie is really doing well. But you know what the truth is? Susie is crying in her room every night. She just
Hmm.
telling you about it because you didn't create a safe place for her to allow her to share it. Um, One of the other things that I feel that we get dismissed really quickly is when the parents die and the parents were older. Like literally, how long do people really want to hear that our dad had died? Not very. That's the truth. They didn't want to hear that. But as a parent that you lost a child, you could go on, you could take that a little bit longer. People would go deeper with you.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing that I find is that, and this is human nature, and I've said this for as long as I can remember, we thrive on the bad and the ugly. People wanted to be in there with Austin and Donovan because they wanted to know the ugly aspects of the traumatic death that they share.
We I was kind of laughing because there was one of the scenes from that movie with Kevin Hart where his wife dies and he goes back to work and his boss is sharing that his grandmother died. My 90-year-old grandmother just died. He's like, oh, you must have been so shocked. You know what I mean? Because people want to compare, first of all, your loss, but when someone 90 years old dies, they just act like you shouldn't grieve it at all. Well, they lived to be
Yeah.
90. They had a full life. Like, get
And lived
over
a
it.
life. Yeah.
It doesn't make it any less sad. Like if your grandmother used to like cook you your favorite cookies every holiday, and you're not going to get those cookies on Christmas, that's sad.
Well, okay, but what about the time that your parents got a divorce and from the moment you were 10 till 15, your dad took you away and you didn't get to see that grandma
Yeah.
and you were absent from that grandma. And then you came back and you and your grandmother became friends. And she was the one who made your veil when you got married. And now you know your grandmother made your veil and you have this deep friendship with it. It's that we are judging the grief from the
Yeah.
outside. Is
Mhm.
that thunder?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that that scared me. It's that we're judging the grief from the outside on how they should be grieving.
Yeah. Especially like when you have, that scenario, like that's a childhood trauma, right? Like your dad takes you away and you're robbed of these years. That's another thing that's really dismissed too, is childhood trauma. People are like, well, you're an adult now. You need to get over that.
Yeah,
Those that pain runs deep. One of the things
yeah,
that we teach about grief is that it's cumulative and it's cumulatively negative. You
yeah,
don't just forget. People
yeah,
are still allowed or should be allowed to talk about old hurts from when they were in kindergarten. If you're still talking about it and you're 60, that really hurt then.
yeah,
It really
yeah,
hurt and it just needs to be acknowledged. Just
yeah,
acknowledge it like, oh, that must have been very painful for you. I'm
yeah,
sorry that you had to experience that. How simple is that?
yeah, exactly. I agree. I agree. I think that what we need to understand, and I mean, if you and I just change this one thing before we leave this earth, is that don't judge someone's grief. Don't judge it. Don't ever judge it. Even you and I, when we were working with people, we're like, we work with them one week and we're like, okay, she got it. She just made a huge leap. They come back to our call the next week as broken as the day we saw them the first time. Because you know what? They opened the Bible that had been sitting on their coffee table forever and they found a love letter from Bob in there.
Yeah.
And they come back to the call as broken as the day we first met them. And you know what? We can't sit there and go, come on, Carol, you should be over this by now. You know what we do? We start over.
Yeah. In the beginning
Start
of
over.
when we first got certified and that would happen, I would automatically make it about me. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, why is she
Yeah.
not getting it?
Yeah.
But now, being a more seasoned grief specialist, I just understand it's part of the process. And like you
Yeah.
said, she found a letter from Bob where he was
Yeah.
just talking about the most beautiful parts of their relationship. Of course, that hurts. And
Yeah.
we need to hold space for Carol and give her that moment. And then
Yeah.
every time she does get it and grasp it, we celebrate those accomplishments and then understand when she falls off the wagon and she's back to square one. It's how it goes. It is how it goes. And for you, I think it probably was a little bit more, you were more readily accepting of those experiences because of me. The nights I would call you up to Grey's Anatomy,
Yeah.
one day I'd be great. And then I'd watch Grey's Anatomy and call you crying. And it was like Austin had just died. You
Yeah.
watched me go through that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that when I became a grief specialist, but it's how it goes. And
Yeah.
thank God you didn't judge me and be like, Erica, you really got to get your life together. Stop watching Grey's Anatomy. You just love me through it.
Okay, first of all, I couldn't imagine ever saying that. I couldn't imagine ever saying that. And when you and I did a video once where I said, I judged my grief by how you were doing, because that also helped me. And I couldn't imagine ever saying that. But you know what, Erica? It gets said every single day.
Yeah, it
It
does.
is getting said every single day by different people. And
Yeah,
they come to us and they're just broken because they just thought their best friend was really going to be there for them. And she just is not giving them any time. If you are the supporting staff or the best friend that someone is coming to, just shut your mouth. Don't say anything. Just listen. Pretend like you have no mouth and just listen. And if you don't know what to say, ask a question. Don't give any advice, ask a question. Man, that must be really awful. How does that feel?
mhm,
Where do you feel it in your body? What color is that pain? What do you think you could do? If you knew what to do, what would you do? Always come back with a question. It's always so much easier. And it makes the griever feel like you're really with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, the other thing is, you know, you could watch that person have 10 good days in a row,
Yeah.
and then they have that 11th day and it's total shit. Don't, you know, be like, well, you were doing so good. Just be in the trenches with them and love them through that, because that's really
Yeah.
what's going to help them to get to another set of 10 good days.
Yeah. Yeah. Something happens to the griever when they hear themselves say the thing out loud. And that thing that happens is that their heart and their brain start to line up, and they can start going into their heart and having the full aspect of the grieving experience. And here's the other thing, my friends, you're going to never know what they're going through. You will never
Mhm.
know. And the worst thing that you want to have happen is for them to shut down and close you out of that process.
Yeah. You know, it's not surprising when we work with people and they say, you know, my best friend's mom died and I thought I was being supportive, but then when they get, like you say, when you become a member of the club and you really feel what the grief feels like, and you're like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
was such a shitty friend. I should
Yes.
have been, you know, A, B, and C. You don't
Yeah.
know until it happens to you.
You don't know until it happens to you. Yeah. Hey, friends, if you want more tips on how to help a friend with grieving, or you're actively grieving and you're not sure how to do it, our Facebook group is the best place for you to go, because that is where we are in there every day. We're making videos, we're talking, we're sharing, and we're giving tips. And a lot of what we do is just ask questions. Every day I post a question. Hey, how's your grief today? How's it feel? And people are talking with one another, and we're supporting one another. And we'd be honored to have you in that group.
Bye, friends. Thank you.
Bye.